Hi everyone, today we're going to learn about loops. So what are loops? Loops are codes that repeats, and there are several loops. We have for loops, while loops, do while loops, and for each loops. So I'm going to start with the examples for the loops. The for loop is going to start like this. Uh, there's going to be an integer with there's going to be a value, a variable. Int I is equal to 0, I is less than 10, I plus plus. And what is I plus plus? I plus plus is called is a variable incremented by 1. And what is increment? Increment plus means add 1. And inside of the block of code, the codes inside block repeats until condition is false. Now the condition we're looking at is this one right here, the one in the middle. It's I minus I less than 10. Now every time the code repeats, it goes through the for here, the for it goes through the increments, the for increments by 1, and it's going to increment the I by 1 each time it loops. So let's write down console.writeLine. Alright, let's run this program. Let's debug it. And here you can see 0 to 9. Let me make it bigger. You can see 0 to 9. And the reason why it only goes up to 9 is because when it hits 10 or greater than 10, the condition is no longer true, and it breaks out of the of the um the of the loop. Now, what if the condition is never true? If the condition is never true, there will be an infinite loop, which is a bad because it's going to freeze a program. And you don't want an infinite loop since it's going to freeze a program. You want a way to break out of that loop, so the program can run freely. So an example of a infinite loop would be using the while loop and setting 1 equals 1. So this is the condition. The condition is similar to the else if statements. The condition for the while loop 1 equals 1 will always be true. So as a result, there will be an infinite loop, and you don't want that because the program is going to freeze. And I'm not going to debug it because I'm not sure what's going to happen, but I'm not going to debug it in case the debug console freezes. So in order to break out of that loop, we must set a condition, or we can use the word break here. and it'll break out of the loop. Another way to break out of the loop is to use a variable int a equals 1. A is equal to 1. If a is equal to 1, then the loop here, the codes inside block repeats. But if we add 1 to a, then a becomes 2. And once a becomes 2, the loop ends. So let's write down for each here. Oh, for loop. For loop. Let's also write down a separator. This is just so we can read inside the console. So for while, let's do while and for each. Let's write down console.writeLine. While repeats until condition equals false. And the do while is the same thing as a while loop. The do while, the only difference with the do while is it starts with do and then ends with while condition. A is equal to 1. Now, what the do while loop does is it's going to run the run statement first or at least once. Then it's going to check condition. So whenever you see a do while loop, it's going to run the statements inside of its code block once. So it's going to run the statements console.writeLine do while statement runs at least once. It's going to run at least once, and then it's going to check the condition here, and if it's false, it's going to break out. If it's true, it's going to rerun the loop. Let's run this program. F5. And here you can see the do while loop. Do while statements runs at least once. And the reason why it only runs once is because a is a reference to the variable up here, which has been added by 1, which 1 has been added to it, and it becomes 2. So that's why the statement runs at least once, because this condition is actually 2 is equal to 1, and it's going to result to false. Now, this is the for each loop. The for each loop is usually used to loop through arrays or lists. So let's say I have a list int or string. List equals new list string. Let's add in some values to it. Let's add in str1, str2. Now this is how you initialize a list instead of using the list.add. And then for the for each loop, we use a for each, and we're going to use the same data type as we did for the list. So we're going to use a string data type because the list contains a value of a list of value of strings. And then for each string, and then we're going to give it a give the values a new identifier. Let's say for each value for each value in the list. Okay, we're going to write down console dot write line value. So it's going to go through the, so what for each loop does is it goes through a list and retrieves and gets the list values one by one as a new variable. And we're just going to say value here because the value is the new variable, and it's going to loop through the list loop. Let's see. And it's going to display each value inside of the list to the console when we debug it. So let's debug the program. And here you can see the for each loop and its value being written down to the console. Now, when you write down for each loop, the you don't have to write down list in index 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into the console.write line. You can just write console.write line and the variable you've used in place of the value, and it'll show up in the console. So it's going to save you a lot of time. Let's see. I think this is all about loops, and thank you for watching. Bye.